Hey everyone, Mr. Happy here, and welcome to Mondays with Mr. Happy, aka Mr. Happy Mondays, the weekly Q&A show where you ask me questions and I answer them. Wow, I look like a mess. Yeah, it's been a heck of a past few days. I streamed Final Fantasy VI like 13 hours a day, so I could 100% it for Elden Ring. I didn't make it in time because I only had one day, realistically, because it came out in the middle of the afternoon. But I did finish my 100% of Final Fantasy VI. I've now 100%ed all of the Pixel remasters on Steam. Let's see what happens if and when they come out on console. If I decide I want to do that again. Oh, don't even make me think about that right now. And then I started playing Elden Ring like 13 hours a day. So I just wrapped up stream. It's like almost 8 p.m. right now, and I start stream at 7 a.m. So yeah, just under 13 hours, and that is a hell of a game. I don't know if any game this year is going to beat that for me already. Like, I was already a Souls fan, but normally open world games don't do it for me. But man, done change the game, Elden Ring. Done change the game. I'm not going to spoil anything. No Elden Ring spoilers. None of that. But I just want to say, yeah, it's been a heck of a time. So maybe this week will be like last week, which was 17 minutes and 33 seconds since I have it in front of me. And I can go rest after this so I can do it again tomorrow. But we'll see. Either way, I'm here for a Q&A. With that, let's get started. Thank you to our sponsors, those of you over on Patreon, for supporting. In fact, I did just get an email. It was either yesterday or the day before, somebody who had recently signed up on there, and I wanted to write it down and remember. Yes, Valeria. Yes, thank you, Valeria, for going over there to Patreon. But all my content is free here on YouTube. The Patreon's completely optional. It's appreciated, but just as long as you enjoy the video, like it, whatever you got to do, ask questions in the comment section. That's good for me. So thank you to those of you on Patreon who go that extra mile, and the people who go the extra mile. Those of you, Kurenai Oni and Khuja Cross on Jenova, thank you to both of you as well. With that, let's see if I have a short video on my hands this week or a long one. Question number 1 doesn't have a hashtag, but I can see that it's a question. Hey Haps, question. That's how I was able to identify it. About Final Fantasy XIV moving more single-player friendly. Do you think its story holds up being a mainline Final Fantasy? I think the story is amazing. If it wasn't an MMO, I'd still buy it. Yeah, I think Final Fantasy XIV benefits from being an MMO in the sense that a lot of Final Fantasy stories, I mean, don't get me wrong, most Final Fantasy stories are good, they're great, people like them, don't like them, whatever. But Final Fantasy XIV is hundreds of hours of a franchise that people already like, with, you know, bits and pieces strung along to reference the other ones, as the Final Fantasy franchises already want to do. So it kind of just ticks all the boxes, and then it's more. So yeah, I mean, I think it stands as one of the better Final Fantasy stories across the entire franchise. But some of that is just because it just has so much room to tell its story, so much more room than a single player game really can. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Greetings and salutations. Hello. Looking back on all the fights and bosses we've had in Final Fantasy XIV over the years, excluding ultimates, why you gotta do that? I love the ultimates. What fight would you consider to have been the most difficult when it was new? Hi, Ivy. I'm assuming you were just jumping down in the back as well. When it was new, I mean, Gordius. Gordius has to take the cake. Midas is a close second because of Brute Justice. I think Brute Justice is more mechanically challenging than Gordius was, but the absolute brutality. Ivy, stop causing trouble. Hey, come here. Be part of this question. Ivy was actually the toughest boss when it released. Hi. Hey, yeah, come on. Yeah, there you go. Hi. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, just chill. It's okay. Yeah, Gordius. Definitely. Manipulator in particular. Just nobody wanted to do the fight on top of that. It was just such a tedious fight. Ivy, relax. Don't put your ass in my face. I'm pushing your butt down. There we go. Yeah, I know I'm far away from the mic, so it's a little hard to hear, so I'm trying to talk loudly, but that's my answer. And there she goes. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey, Haps, how you doing? I'm doing all right. You doing all right? I'm doing all right. She's still bugging me. Last question. Hope you're getting some good rest and enjoying your time playing other games. I have a couple of questions if you're up to it. Definitely. Any jobs you're surprised on how well it played coming from Shadowbringers? Any jobs surprised you how not well it played coming from Shadowbringers? Bard's a big one for how well it did play. I know there's some Bard mains that have some grievances with it compared to Shadowbringers, but quite frankly, I love it. I think they did a fantastic job. It's just a little tough trying to move around the rigidity of it if either mistakes are made or you want to move burst windows, but that's a problem a lot of jobs have, so I can't fault specifically Bard for that. As for jobs that do not play well, you know what? I'd probably have to play jobs more seriously to get into the minutia of why a job doesn't play well. So what I will say is White Mage being just kind of blah. It's not even like it underperforms or it doesn't play well. It just has, it kind of suffers from what it feels like Bard suffered from last expansion, where it feels like somebody thinks they're still playing Shadowbringers, and they design it like a Shadowbringer's job. But then they gave everybody else these updated tools, these really cool things, and made all the other healers more desirable, and gave them like fail safes for like the decision making they could have. And White Mage is still kind of left in the dust. Scholar suffers from that a little bit too, but Scholar's so strong that nobody really cares. Like, Energy Drain is just a silly thing now when you look at the cost efficiency on Sage, or when you look at the damage trade-off on some of the other jobs when they make a decision to use a big DPS button. But White Mage, I think, suffers the most. I think that's the big one that surprised me, that didn't translate as well as I would have liked. And then 2, Final Fantasy XIV regarded as a wonderful community. Yeah, I mean, it's the internet. There's always bad people. Like, I hope people understand that there's a ton of great people, and then there's also bad people, and they're not mutually exclusive, because people like to do the great community, by the way, meme, and then they also, then there's the other way around where people are like, oh, I never run into anyone toxic. It's like, no, it's the internet. There's always division when it comes to stuff like that. Is there ever a time when the community was considered the complete opposite? I think it's always the case, though, especially as the games become more popular. I guess I kind of answered it without even reading the rest of the question. As the games become more popular, and this is true of all games, that means the number of people who are decent, okay to play with people, regardless of skill level, is higher. It also means the number of people who you really, really wish would just never be in your presence ever again. There's also more of those people. You can't avoid it. I think the most toxicity the game has had is now, and it's just because there's more people. And that's the only reason. It's not influenced by any individual or any specific gameplay element. That's just how it is. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. My Bluetooth headset just went off and told me it was connected, so I'm going to turn it off real quick. I had a question about the increase time in monthly patches. I feel 4 months a bit too long. I'm going to blow your mind in a second right now. And I was wondering if increasing the employees who work on 14 could bring it down. No. The increasing employees does not increase workflow. That is a common misconception. Increasing budget does not necessarily increase workflow. It stabilizes workflow and ensures higher quality, but it still has a process. That's just how working in an environment like that is going to be. But more so, I'm going to blow your mind. The patches were already 4 months. We average, and this is when there isn't a world-changing event going on, we average 17 weeks per patch. And that's their 3.5 months. Now, I get that a month is slightly longer than 4 weeks, so it kind of evens out. But if you look at a calendar, it's basically 4 months. You know what I mean? So this is more realistically going to change it from 17 weeks to potentially 19 or 20 weeks. We don't actually know. We don't have a baseline on this anymore. And so you've already been waiting 4 months of patch. But honestly, 14 has always been that stop playing when you don't want to play it when you do want to play it kind of game. It's been encouraged, it's been built into the design, and rushing it just because you want to play it more is not as good as just taking a break and maybe doing something else. Next one, hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hello, Mr. Happy. I hope you and your family are doing well. Thank you. I have 3 questions. All right, make it up for last week. I was thinking it'll be a short one, it seems. I want to voice my wishes for job adjustments in the forums, but I never used it before. When I asked the subreddit for advice, they didn't give me much. So there's job discussion forums and feedback forums. Those are where you want to go. You could go directly to the job forums and raise a discussion about a specific element of the job, and if that gets traction, they normally notice it. Or you can go directly into the feedback forums and fill out their feedback forms. They give you a template. Please follow it, because otherwise it is probably... I'm not going to say they're going to ignore it, but if you can't do that, then it's difficult to think that the feedback could be as valuable, because it's just a few simple things to fill out to make sure that the template is accurate. 2, around level 60 on Monk, but some Monk express they want a Notman to give a Nadi on Prepull. No. So here's the thing. Giving a Nadi on Prepull would essentially make it so that you can open with Phantom Rush. It removes the double solar versus lunar solar rotations. The big thing is that that doesn't actually matter all that much, because the game would be significant in your opener right now. They don't need to get any stronger. So if they want this, they need to nerf potencies. And most likely the potency on Phantom Rush itself. It would have to go back down to 1,000, which, trust me, I don't think anyone has any issue with. It's kind of surprising to see them get extra potency on it at all. 20% potency from what it had before. But I don't think adding an extra button to press... I understand people want Annotment to be more useful. I agree. It's a pointless button. But then you're just going to press it once. And then the long... And honestly, the long cast time, that's a 50-50. You couldn't even use it some of the time because then it would throw off your entire reopeners. Like you couldn't just use it for... Like, let's say you were in the middle of a downtime. And you were going to come out of the downtime into a perfect balance. And that perfect balance was going to give you your Nadi, and then you were going to be ready for a 2-minute burst that would come later. This would completely screw that. So then you'd have to decide on an individual fight, you know, is it even worth doing here? Will it actually move my Phantom Rush to be outside of my 2 minutes? I think they need to find another use for it, but I don't think that's it. And question number 3, is it wrong that I want Red Mage to have Verasuna? Yeah, they don't need any more support skills. They're already way too strong in the support category. No hashtag, but I see it's a question. Hi, Mr. Happy. What do you think of joining Party Finder parties past your experience with the fight? On one hand, I don't want to contribute to the cesspool that is the Party Finder. On the other hand, it's nearly impossible to find fresh P4S prog parties. The time it takes to find one fresh early prog, it could join one phase 1 clear party and get like 10 pulls and twice over. I always say, if you don't have the experience, don't lie about having the experience. People remember that, people blacklist you, and then when you do finally get to the prog point with which you're playing with those people, then they've blacklisted you. You can't even play with them anyway. So it's not worth it. It's really not. It's better to just sit there and chill and just wait, maybe do something on the side than it is to lie and then get banned from parties because you can't join them because there's blacklisted people in them. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hello. Hi. What's something you now know that you wish you knew when you were younger? It can be related to anything, money, life, etc. I wish I had been recording and posting videos on YouTube way younger. I mean, in high school, I was taking like video editing courses, and I was making sure to join things like working on the yearbook and the video yearbook. I wanted to get some experience in just working with things like that so that I could make videos on my own. I mean, I made a video of a bunch of my friends doing like an anime style fight back in high school, and it wasn't anything major. You know, we didn't have After Effects or anything to add anything cool, but we could, research some background musics and, do jump cuts and edits and things like that, add a few really basic effects, and it was fun. I wish I had taken that and done more YouTube content and like had invested in like proper stuff to do it sooner. I mean, the consequences of that in my life would probably be pretty severe, given that when I started is also why I'm with my girlfriend now. Like those two things happened at the same time. She's integral to the starting of what I do now. So if I did start earlier, would I have met her? And obviously, I think the answer would have been no, and that's not good. I wouldn't want that. But if there was no change, no consequence, I would just say, just post content sooner. I could have been making money, earning money. I could have been doing stuff I loved way sooner than when I was doing it. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hello, Mr. Happy, longtime watcher, first time asker, serve a bonus of a professional sous vide steak. I mean, you're reverse searing it, I'd assume. You're going to sous vide it and then you sear it on really high heat in like, some butter and some oil for like, I'm just making sure that we're doing it right. Okay, as long as we're doing it right, then we're good. Have you ever thought about making a general guide with NA to help teach us how to use raid macros? Yeah, but my experience with NA using macros is so bad, I'm generally discouraged. Like, my favorite story is when I was doing Emerald Weapon, and somebody I was with posted a raid macro, and I was like, oh my god, I love it, it's amazing. And then one of the tanks, called the H1 position, and we were like, that's not how that works. And I'm like, I'm just thinking, on one hand, if he knew better, he maybe wouldn't have done that. We had to educate him on the spot. But I also know that most people just don't read at all. They don't read the party finder that they join. They don't read the party chat when people ask them to do things. People don't pay attention. And so I've lost all hope. Maybe I'll do it. But generally speaking, every time I mention macros, people just go, oh, it's so ugly. Look at my Twitch chat. Look at my party chat. It's just hideous. I can't even tell what's going on. I was like, yeah, because you don't care, because you don't want to do it, because you're lazy. Stop. Don't be lazy. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hello, Mr. Happy. Hope everything is fine. It's going all right. My internet issues started coming back this week, but I've already spoken to the regional managers, and they're aware and working on a more long-term solution. I'm reading with my group in 14 for Savage, and at some ports we hold burst windows for 1 or 2 GCDs to avoid bursting and chaotic mechanics, or when we don't have full uptime. First, as a bard, I hate it. Oh yeah. Second, wouldn't it be better to release the person who came up because holding would grief the whole thing and lose DPS? So no, you'll only lose DPS if you would lose a burst window because of when you are executing them. So for example, let's say a fight is 7.5 minutes long. Now, if you were to do your 2 minutes on cooldown, let's say there was nothing to stop you, you would do your 2s at, let's say 10 seconds, 2 minute 10 seconds, 4 minute 10 seconds, 6 minute 10 seconds. Now, in that fight, you have a roughly minute and 20-second like spare time where there's just, it wouldn't matter if you're going all the way to enrage. You could move it a few seconds and you wouldn't lose it. So you could do like, 15 and maybe 225 and then maybe 435 and then 645. So you're pushing them each back 10 seconds to get them out of the way of some of the more annoying mechanics, and you aren't losing them. Now, suddenly, however, the boss may enrage at 730, but let's say you're killing it at 6 minute 20 seconds. Now, that singular delay that you did at any point might have cost everyone a burst window. It'd be really inconvenient, but it's the absolute truth. Now, in that case, you have to consider how many burst windows you'll actually get, because at 620, you don't even get a full final burst window. So maybe now you have to consider actually holding for a minute at some point and doing a 035. If I'm only going to get 3 burst windows that are full, let's do them at a time that is more beneficial. So if you do 035, then you have a pot for the 5-minute one, whereas if you otherwise would have to wait for the 6-minute time and actually to do the second pot. So there's all sorts of weird optimizations. They're fight to fight, they're comp dependent, and it's a big way to improve your understanding of raiding by learning how these things line up on different jobs and how to play around them. But in the Party Finder, if you're watching this, because I'm answering this person said they're with their group, if you're in the Party Finder, good fucking luck. Unless it's a Bars party, almost nobody does that. One before this, it's not on screen, they just said they were giving me a spare hello, and to that person I say, thank you. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays, hello, hope all is well. Same. I'm looking forward to State of the Realm Melee discussion. Any idea when it is happening and who you will be having on? So the Melee discussion will not be happening at the earliest until March 12th. That's at the earliest, because I think we actually are doing the caster conversation before that, because I can easily get some guests for the caster. Sly and I have been discussing who we want on for the Melee show, so the 12th is the earliest, if not the 19th, but that is when you're looking at for a Melee discussion, unless we have to skip a week because our schedules are too busy, which could happen realistically at this point, so bear that in mind. A quick lightning round before I answer this one. Person before asked which healer they should start with if they're trying to level all their healers. I say White Mage. I know I said earlier it's kind of underwhelming, but it is the most basic of them, so you learn healing and you get the what I consider the least exciting one out of the way first. So there you go, White Mage. This question, however, hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey, Night Hockey here. Welcome. Hope you and your family are doing well. Thank you. Same to you. Not a first-time asker, but go ahead and have a nice, juicy 48-ounce porterhouse steak with all the fixings. Honestly, dude, I've gotten older. I have gotten to the point where I cannot do all the fixings. It doesn't, like, hurt me, but I'm just like, it's too much. That doesn't stop me from trying sometimes, but, you know. I'm a fan of Squadrons, as well as Trust. It seems the information we received from Live Letter 68 regarding Trust being implemented in old main scenario dungeons, starting in Realm Reborn, has basically sealed the fate for Squadrons. I know it hasn't been confirmed, but have they ceased doing any updates for Squadrons? Will they keep both or eliminate Squadrons? So first of all, they do have a definitive answer on this. They are keeping Squadrons. Squadrons serve a different purpose altogether, and should they ever want to expand on them in the future, they absolutely can. That being said, I wouldn't expect anything anytime soon outside of them still being available. So that's all there is to that. There's another one that I kind of skipped past. Somebody asking me what they should do if their static's trying to push them into another job, specifically in this case Astra instead of Scholar. Listen, I'm a conformer. There's only been one expansion where I firmly sat down and said I will not play something else, and that was Stormblood, where I played Monk. So I'm otherwise a conformer. So maybe don't ask me that question, because I am, how would I put this, useless. That I am. As for the question in front of us, hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays with Mr. Happy on Monday. Hey, Mr. Happy, how are you doing? Fine. Hopefully you are too. Long-time watcher, first-time asker. It says asked. I'm going to assume this was done on mobile, because that's what happens to me whenever I try to write ask her on mobile. I hope all is well and your internet is doing well. I have two questions. One that is 14 related, the other is not. Question number one, how do I get in the Savage Ultimate rating? I would start with the Party Finder. I know you say pugs make you nervous, but Honestly, Party Finder, you got to get your feet wet somehow. So that would be it. Join some fresh prog P1Ss. Maybe look for a few streamers that are trying to help people on specific data centers. Todd is a great example of that. Llama Todd, that is. So that would be my first step. As for question number 2, 14 is my first Final Fantasy game. What are your favorite games from the franchise? 6 is my absolute favorite. Just released the Pixel Remaster. It was very good. Very, very good version to have. Very faithful to the very original one, and just played well. And as for after that, 10 is a nice, easy one. If you've never, ever played a Final Fantasy game before and you're not really sure you're into the retro style stuff, 10 is an easy recommendation for a starting point. After that, for me, Zodiac Age, but Zodiac Age can be kind of finicky for people new to the franchise. That one's kind of a tough recommendation, even if it's in my top 3. Specifically, Final Fantasy XII Zodiac Age, not the original Final Fantasy XII, which I think is a far inferior game. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey, hi, hello, how are you? Hope all is well. In case you can't tell, I'm answering these a little bit quicker because I can tell it's going to be a little bit longer than last week. A two-parter. What do you think the likelihood of an animal beast themed job, summon, shapeshift, tame, and what would you like to see brought to life? I think Beastmaster is a given, but I think it's going to be a limited job, and I think it's going to play like Pokemon. I think we're going to go out into the world and just collect things and then do turn-based battles with them. And then there's going to be shinies. That's all I actually want. I don't actually care if it's anything else. I just want shinies. Yeah, I mean, at some point, I don't see why not, but in terms of whether it would be a transformation type job, I don't think we're going to get like a druid turning into a bear kind of a situation. I mean, we could. Again, I'm not the developer, so it'd be dumb of me to say it couldn't happen. But I don't think it will go that direction. I think we'd sooner control beasts like a Beastmaster, but like I said, I think that'll end up being a limited job. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Greetings, Mr. Happy. Hi. Do you believe Xeno's Scythe will be obtainable in some form, either as a real weapon or just glamour? As a real weapon, I like that. It's something with item level, yeah. Yeah, it'll be on the Mog Station for like $6, $7, calling it. But yeah, I mean, that's a cash cow. Of course they're going to do it. Hashtag Mr. Happy, Mr. Mondays with Mr. Happy. Why did I, dude, did I have a stroke? I don't know. Hi, Mr. Happy. Hi. How do you feel about 14 trying to attract players who don't otherwise enjoy MMOs by making content soloable? For me, it feels like a bad idea trying to people who fundamentally don't enjoy your creation and then putting them in a pool. So I think you're thinking this too linearly. Generally, people, it's specifically not people who don't enjoy MMOs. You're looking at people who are generally apprehensive about playing MMOs. Now, that could be because of the commitment. That could be because they think there's no way they're going to get to endgame. It's about breaking down a barrier between people who are on the fence and people who, playing and people who are on the fence. Like, you want to get them over the fence and actually playing the game. So that's the big thing, because what happens is two things happen. The people who genuinely just can't get into an MMO stop, and they don't affect the people who are already playing. The people who were apprehensive but end up liking it end up being consistent subscribers. And then you also have people who play other MMOs but are looking for a more streamlined experience because they can't just dedicate all their time to one MMO, or they don't want to dedicate all their time. So you're essentially opening up the market by allowing people to get into your game on their own terms, no matter what those terms are. Those people do not ruin MMOs. The design does not ruin MMOs. It only ruins it if you fundamentally in your head tell yourself that it's ruining it, even if it's massively successful. And I know there are some people who see something be massively successful and then they start being like, oh, it's lost its soul. It's all corporate. It's all money. All of your games are corporate and for money. Maybe some of the indie games aren't, but they're all trying to make a buck. So got to get past that. Just focus on you having fun. Don't worry about what other people are doing. This one doesn't have a hashtag, but the one before this was asking if I think they'll make Blue Mage unlimited. No. Essentially, they'd have to make a whole new job. And then it's a matter of, do they delete the existing Blue Mage, add a toggle for it? I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think Blue Mage ever becomes unlimited. But who knows? Maybe they'll surprise me. It could always happen. But I don't think it will. That's all. Hey, Mr. Happy. Hi. Haven't been able to make it to the stream. Was wondering your thoughts on some of the games you've been playing. Lost Ark, Triangle Strategy, soon Elden Ring. Obviously, I'm already playing Elden Ring. And Final Fantasy VI. For some reason, I thought you said Final Fantasy VI twice. I don't know why. Although, some of those, I suppose, could be content going to a different channel that is exclusively Final Fantasy. No. Maybe like favorite or least favorite aspect. So Lost Ark, here's the thing. I have fun when I'm playing it, kind of. Like, I'm like, oh yeah, I slap some enemies, I get some loot, I can do some upgrades, whatever. I don't fundamentally find it very fun. The story's very shoddy. It's bogged down with a ton of KMMO kind of tropes. You know, the story is all demons. Like, that's every KMMO. And then all the systems that are bogged in. It's very reminiscent of a mobile game where it's like, oh, you have a system for that, and a system for this, and a system for this, and a system for that. And you can do this with the Mog Station. You can do this with the cash shop. You can do that with the cash shop. It's not inherently pay to win. You don't win very much if you are spending money, unless you're spending a lot of fucking money. But it's just, I don't know. It feels kind of shallow. I don't know how to describe it. Like, fundamentally, it's fun. But it's so easy to just put it down and forget. And not want to play it again. I guess that's really the big thing is, I don't want to log in and do dailies, you know, once a day, once every 5 days, it doesn't matter. I don't want to log in and blast through the same dungeon once a week until raids come out. And even then, once the raids come out, I mean, they're probably fun. The dungeons are okay. Most of them are okay. Pugs aren't great. It's not a very consistent experience. I'll put it that way, because I don't know. That should be its own video. But yeah, Lost Ark is at best. Triangle strategy, bit too wordy. This is a problem with Team Asano in general. They are way too heavy on dialogue and not enough on gameplay. We'll see if that continues to be the case after we get past the demo point. But the gameplay is fantastic in Triangle strategy. So I hope the dialogue doesn't bog it down too much. Elden Ring, I already said at the beginning. That's probably going to be my game of the year. And Final Fantasy VI. Final Fantasy VI is my favorite Final Fantasy. It's Pixel Remaster. Good remaster. So that's an easy one. This one doesn't have... We have a lot of not hashtag askers. It's a good thing I pay attention, because otherwise we'd be missing these. Hello, Haps. Doing all right? You doing all right? I'm doing all right. Two simple, non-Final Fantasy questions. If you were a gym leader in Pokemon, what typing would you be? Fitting, considering we had the Gen 9 announcement today. What typing would I be? Probably Psychic. Yeah, Psychic's always been classic for me. You know what, I'll do something dumb. I'll do like Psychic and Ghost. It'd be like, aha, you thought I loved my Pokemon, but they hate each other. We'll go with that. And what is your favorite Pokemon? Lucario. I know it makes it seem like I would probably pick Fighting in that case, but no, yeah, definitely Lucario. He was my first shiny to do in Sword Shield for that reason. I saw this one didn't have a hello, and I'm answering it anyway. Why? Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. I'll add it for you. Hey, Mr. Happy. Hope you're all as well. Whatever. With the graphics lift for 14 is going to be getting, do you think they'll hold off on adding female Hrothgar until 7.0? Let's be clear. There's never been a timeline on female Hrothgar. They could have been 7.0 all along for all we know. They just said sometime after 6.0, which can literally be whenever. So, yeah, probably. Well, let me put it this way very clearly. They didn't just decide, like, right in the last month when they started developing it. They didn't just decide to start working on that. It wasn't like they woke up one day and said, we should really start that. They clearly planned female Hrothgar's timeline with this in mind. So we don't know how much this takes out of them. We don't know how much resources have to be diverged, what people they've hired, how much overlap there is. So there's no way of saying, but I honestly thought it wasn't coming till 7.0 anyway. So that's just it. All right, a lot of the remaining questions are big, like, repeat questions or stuff, so I think I'm going to start the lightning round now. I'm just going to have to scroll back up because I was looking. Somebody said, do I think that we'll get it? Do I think we won't get another Eureka Boja Zone? I mean, it's not looking likely, but I can't rule it out. They could have just not announced it. They said there were things they didn't announce. It could be part of the weapon series, but no, I think Criterion Dungeons are going to be the replacement for them this expansion. Let's see. There was another question about Lost Ark likes, dislikes. I kind of spoke about it to some degree in kind of a not great way, but, you know. Do I think they'll repeat the Ishgard restoration final steps? I don't think they will, but I wouldn't be against it. Specifically for, like, new servers on OCE. I mean, I don't see why they wouldn't, but, I mean, I guess so people don't transfer over, get it, when it's already coming past. Yeah, they probably won't, but I don't care. I wouldn't care if they did. It's just so... The amount of work that goes into it, if somebody really wanted to transfer and win it, all power to them, because it's ridiculous. What do I think the next Ultimate in 6.3 will be? It's either the Warring Triad or Omega. And Shinryu could be a part of Omega as well. So those are kind of my easy guesses. Is there any way to make the numbers over your head in P2S and P3S appear more easily? No, there isn't. And listen, if I can do it on colorblind, I'm confident that you can do it. So you just got to get used to looking for it at the right times. Jump so you can separate yourself from people. You know, get away from people preemptively so you can more easily see what's over your head. That would be some of the simple things you could do. Let's see. Is how difficult is to start Savage content on a tank? It's like, I mean, it's as hard as the other jobs, but you are more responsible. Make sure you... I would start with Extremes. Extremes are easy. Just make sure you know how a tank swap works, and you're generally, like, that's all you need to do. Pop a cooldown when you see a big tank hit coming, and just try not to pop too many things at once. And honestly, with that, you're pretty much all good. Someone said, what's your favorite relic? Oh, I can't even remember how most of them look. One of my favorite details on any relic, though, the Shadowbringer's Red Mage Resistance weapon, the finished one, actually has the Black Mage and White Mage symbol around the focus. If you look at the symbols that are going, it alternates between the two. And I thought that was a really, really cool detail that is really easy to miss. So just want to shout that out. There's somebody here who's asking me about using the tracer command for my VPN after my internet. I don't use a VPN. And we're not talking about Final Fantasy XIV connection. I was talking about my internet connection. So it was weird that you just dived so headfirst into tweaking VPNs and stuff like that. So I don't know, that was a little forward thinking, I suppose. You doing all right? There's one. I'm doing all right. So that they can make dungeons with actual teeth. I mean, yeah, they could, but it doesn't serve the purpose that dungeons serve in Final Fantasy XIV, so there's really a big one. There's a huge bit of dialogue from the JP data center. We do not do... So just so this person's clear, the formatting on this is very, very hard to read. If people come over to another data center and they're somebody who doesn't use macros, they're going to just get kicked out of parties. Like, people will just leave if people don't conform to what their data center's norm is. So if people were to try to go to JP and they can't use macros, they're just going to get blacklisted or kicked from parties. And that's their own problem. Because then they'll stop trying to do it in the first place. But don't forget, data center travel is only going to be region specific until an undisclosed point in time. So when data center travel hits in 6.18, Japan's just opening up to the rest of Japan, to the other data centers. So this isn't even an issue that's going to become relevant to you for quite some time. So I'd shelve the concern and reconsider it maybe like a year to a year and a half down the line. As for the next one, let's see. This is a weird one. Somebody talking about had that freak out at the 14 event where he got caught cheating, but we didn't get caught cheating. That's the thing. So there's a story from back in the first FanFest where apparently a teammate of mine, I think I know who it was, pretended to reach for a wheel during I think it was the Extreme Trial Roulette event, and nothing happened. We got sent to our computers and literally nothing happened. Maybe that person got a warning, but I didn't get a warning of any kind. And then I was freaking out because we only had 5 minutes to get all of our keybinds, and the line was like 3 hours long. So I was like, we can't fail this. We can't fucking fail this. Okay, I gotta get this. Gotta get this. I started asking them for more time. I was like, please, I need more time. I just gotta get this done. I was freaking out. Someone was standing behind me like, are you all right? And I'm like, yeah, they just don't give you any time at all. And the line was so long. I really don't want us to die. I really don't want to screw this up. And then, actually, at the end of that FanFest event, I had a breakdown. Like, I started crying in the middle of I think it was right before the concert, actually. Somebody came up, asked me for a question, and I was just kind of like beaten down from over the weekend. Like, I'd never had to do anything like that before. And they went to ask me for, and I still remember because they got a picture at the next FanFest. They found me and they're like, and I was like, yes, now's the time. I just broke down. Like, I just couldn't handle it anymore. And by the time the concert came around, I had kind of gotten it out of my system. But that was bad. That was rough, man. But yeah, we didn't have anything happen. I don't know why people still think something happened with that. The only freak out I had was exactly as what I just described. And I think that might be it for this one. There's somebody at the very bottom, and when YouTube puts a comment at the very bottom, I actually usually like reading it. Not to you guys, I normally just read it for myself. There's someone saying that they're tired of the community asking for MMO single-player experience. Go play a single-player game. And it's just like, I mean, I kind of just already touched upon that earlier. You're just opening your market up to people who maybe otherwise wouldn't like MMOs. And a lot of people try to enjoy MMOs kind of just chill. They go through, they have the social experience with it if they want it. And otherwise they can determine if it's even a game for them in the first place. And it's generally a healthy thing, because if you can get them in the game, then you can usually get them participating in the more online elements of said game. So, and if not, then they sub for the story and then they leave. They don't bother you, and then they keep subbing every time there's new story, and they just make the game money. So it ends up working out. But anyway, I think that's it for the questions. Hopefully I didn't miss any there. But thank you everyone for asking your questions for this week's episode of Mondays with Mr. Happy. If you have a question, ask it in the comment section below, and I'll get to it in hopefully some format or another in next week's show. But anyway, thanks for watching. I'm going to go eat and then play a little more Elden Ring off. Don't tell anyone. Playing it a little bit off stream. See if I can find some items, like some smithing stones and stuff, and just a little bit. Well, anyway, I'll see you next week, though. I'll see you next week. Have a good one. Bye-bye.